Y'all, these people are crazy. These people are crazy. Oh my God. I cannot wait to get into this. If you're new here and you love the Valley, go ahead and hit subscribe. You're going to want to be here. I'm going to be here the entire season. 3 for 3 on episodes. It just gets crazier and crazier with this show. Everybody is tapped in. Everybody's got some mess going on this season, and we're moving. We're moving. The stories are moving. But thumbs up the video. Do that real quick. Y'all did really, really good last week. I think we got like 40 thumbs up, 40 likes. Let's try and get to like 60. Get in them comments. Share the video. Do whatever you can so we can get more and more people here so we can have a bigger conversation as the season goes on, because it's going to get even crazier. But I'm not going to waste too much more time because I want to get into this because these people are fucking nuts. All right, so we get back to Jax pretty much checking into treatment. So Brittany's at home with Cruz, and Danny and Nia, they're sitting and talking about Jax finally getting the help, realizing that he needs the help. Let me fix this. Realizing that he needs the help, and Danny's stating like he needs to do this for Cruz, like do it for Cruz and do it for himself. Like don't even think about Brittany. But Kristen, Luke, and Jasmine, Luke, Jasmine, Melissa, Jasmine's girlfriend, and Zach, they're all talking about it as well. Zach and Melissa are just shocked that he's actually going to get help and actually checked himself in. But Jason gets back to Brittany's house, and he's pretty much talking to her about what happened. He tells her how he went inside, got him checked in, everything. He was actually there. He didn't just drop him off. He went inside, got him checked in, all that stuff. So he ends up telling her as well that he was struggling, like Jax was struggling with separating his anger for Brittany with the fact that he actually needs help. With somebody like Jax, that's just something that you would expect because Jax is a narcissist. Jax thinks all of his actions are validated completely and you have to overlook everything. Yes, Brittany is not an angel. Brittany does things that probably do trigger him, but the way you react is the issue. Like, yes, she does things that might be triggering to you, but the way that you handle certain things, that's not acceptable. Like, throwing chairs at the woman who birthed your child is crazy. That's crazy. That's too much. But he needs the help. Like we all know, we knew he needed the help a decade ago whenever they first started Vanderpump Rules. Like, he's got a lot of issues. But good for him that he's actually going to get the help. But Jason ends up saying that he feels like his actions preventing him from being able to see his kid, a.k.a. Brittany, pretty much taking Cruz away from him, threatening him with, I'm about to literally file for divorce. I'm going to get a restraining order. You're not going to see your son. That should make you realize that you need to make those changes, which is true. Like, that stuff right there should make you realize, okay, well, I'm in some deep shit. I need to figure some shit out. But we get Janet and Michelle. They start pulling up eventually. And Brittany says essentially that she hopes that Jax is going to take the situation seriously and doesn't manipulate the system because he is a manipulator. He's going to get in there and try to play the victim instead of actually getting there and addressing the reasons as to why he's in there. His addictions to drugs, the way he's got anger problems, the way he low-key is a sex addict. There's a lot of things that he needs to unpack in there and get that shit done within those 30 days. Like, you need to be completely open with the experience, which means you need to be open with yourself and what you're going through with those people so they can actually help you. So Brittany's not lying there. But Jason, he ends up eventually leaving, and the girls are still sitting there. And Michelle's talking about how she don't think that Jax would actually, she didn't think that he would actually take that step to go ahead and get help. But Cruz is essentially in there blocking the conversation. You can tell Brittany wants to really divulge and get into more of what just happened, them going back and forth. But Cruz is in there and she don't want to talk about it while he's there. But he's still sitting there and she's looking at him and she starts getting emotional and whatever. But they ended up heading into the kitchen to go eat some takeout that Janet had brought over there. And Brittany pretty much states like his future is depending on if he actually stays in here the 30 days. As we know, last week, she said, if you do not stay in there that whole 30 days, I'm filing for divorce. All them consequences that she told him, that's what's going to happen. And I don't blame her for that. Truthfully, even though what Michelle's about to say is what I completely agree with. But you got to put consequences in front of something to make something happen for somebody like Jax. But the thing is with me, I don't think he genuinely cares about Brittany like that. So I don't think that would even change anything. Jax is going to do what Jax wants to do. So if he ends up finishing in 30 days, I think that's because he wants to do it. I don't think he really cares about Brittany. But Michelle pretty much says, like, regardless, I would file right now and not look back, which I agree. Like, but Brittany it's like, I can't really feel that bad for her either. But we get to Jesse. Jesse is at his house, and Kristen and Luke pull up. He's got croissants and coffee for them. And Kristen's still shocked that her and Jesse are like making these steps towards this budding friendship that they have going on. But Kristen, she ends up saying that if Michelle was doing what Jesse has been doing, then maybe she could be friends with her. But Michelle's made it pretty clear that she don't fuck with Kristen. And Kristen's pretty much stating like it's mutual. Like, if you don't fuck with me, I don't fuck with you. But Kristen then addresses the white party. And Jesse's like, I don't know what's going on with Michelle because she's likely been with Aaron for the last 2 years. And he believes that it happened during their marriage. I also do too. I do. It's alleged, but I do believe that she probably was fucking around with Aaron while they were married. I wouldn't put it past her. But Kristen ends up saying in her confessionals that the guy that she was talking about when she said that Michelle was fooling around with somebody was not Aaron. And I can also believe that too. I can believe Michelle been out here. She been out here because if she ain't having sex with Jesse and they've been in a marriage and they have had a sexless marriage for a while, ain't no way she's not out here not getting it somewhere else. Like, truth be told, when you look at a relationship and a marriage and one person is outside, and when I say outside, mentally checked out, if they're mentally checked out, physically, they're getting it from somebody else. Because you're not going to be in a marriage and not have sex. I don't believe that's possible. But she ends up doing that. And Jesse ends up saying one day that Michelle had gotten all done up to go hike at the Runyon out there in LA and do these hikes every morning. And Kristen and Luke are sitting there looking like, and Kristen said, you don't get dressed up. You don't put a drop of makeup on to go run at Runyon, which I agree with her. Like, you're hiking. You're going to sweat that shit off anyways. But Jesse ends up saying that he had asked her why she's not wearing her ring. And she gave some excuse about not feeling safe walking around with the diamond, but she's also not wearing the wedding band either. So Jesse ends up saying that it clicked, and he ended up looking on Aaron's Instagram and saw this honey company. I think I skipped over that part, but he had seen some honey, this particular brand, in their kitchen for like 2 years. And he went snooping on Aaron's profile and saw that he's with this honey company. And he then went to Whole Foods. Jesse went to Whole Foods looking for the honey and was telling Michelle, I can't find this honey. And she ends up saying, yeah, I found it at a market over near Runyon. But guess who ends up living in Runyon? And that's what he ends up asking Luke and Kristen, who lives in Runyon? Aaron lives in Runyon. So it makes sense. You're going hiking, and Kristen and Luke are like, put 2 and 2 together, like, hello. And Jesse ends up saying that Michelle had admitted to cheating on him, and he's 100% sure that it was Aaron. And if it wasn't Aaron, she done cheated on him twice. I believe she's probably cheated on you more than that, but okay. But Jesse ends up saying that he has decided to plan a trip to go to Santa Barbara. This is where it gets funny, because it's going to play into the rest of this episode. But he's planning a trip to Santa Barbara to get away. He's invited everybody, even Michelle and Aaron, even though he doesn't feel comfortable with them being there. But he's invited her to avoid the pushback from Janet and Brittany, because they obviously want her there. But Kristen offers to plan it, and she said, and as she's talking about this, actually, she's talking about planning this, and guess who ends up calling her phone? Janet. And she's pretty much offering Kristen an invite to come to Dave & Buster's for her birthday party. And Kristen's sitting there looking like, why the fuck is she calling me? Like, everything that happened at that white party, that's the last time we really interacted. I wouldn't think she would want me coming there. But Kristen is essentially asked, like, when is it and whatnot. But she's very reluctant, and she's sitting there holding Luke, basically hoping that he guides her through the conversation, and he ain't doing nothing. But Kristen, essentially, for the most part, it seems like she gave her, like, some, like, I don't know, we'll see about it type deal. But Kristen says, essentially, like, if Janet gave her an apology that was heartfelt, she would have moved on. I wouldn't have. Janet is the type of person that you see her for who she is. She's very manipulative. And she's only wanting Kristen back on her side because she knows Kristen wasn't lying. And then not only that, she sees how the fans reacted to the way Janet was acting all season. Nobody likes Janet. So obviously she wants to make amends. But we get a scene of Jasmine and Janet, and they're talking about how Kristen had told her that she was helping Jesse plan the trip to Santa Barbara, and they're confused about when they became so close. But we also see a scene of Michelle and Aaron talking about it as well. Aaron's pretty much saying he ain't going. But we get Kristen and Nia. They're going to this acupuncture place because Kristen pretty much wants to talk to Nia about, like, her ovulation journey, because Nia had said that what helped her get pregnant in the past was this fertility acupuncture. This is the first time I've seen anything about this. But they're in there, and Kristen's pretty much trying to figure out the perfect time to get pregnant because she's been tracking when she's been ovulating and stuff to figure out, okay, this is when we need to really have sex, so we can hope and pray that this time it'll actually happen. But Nia ends up talking about how she had went to a fertility doctor the first time she had gotten pregnant, and that's when she was diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which is essentially like you're infertile, but we don't know why. And she ends up saying like the acupuncture is what took them to that next step to actually get pregnant. It took them a year and a half to get pregnant, but that's what helped her. But Nia's pretty much reassuring Kristen, like, your baby's out here, your baby's gonna come. And Kristen's pretty much talking about how her and Luke had miscarried last year, which sucks. But that was what's making her fear, like, maybe it's not in the cards for me. But she said she's not ready to accept that, aka she's not gonna give up on it. Good for her, because as we know now, Kristen is pregnant. And I pray that it goes the way that it should, and she'll be able to deliver and have a smooth, successful delivery and have her child. So good for Kristen. But Danny's with the kid. This is where it starts to get messy. Danny's at home with the kids because Nia's over there with Kristen. Luke comes over, and they're pretty much talking about Kristen and Nia going to this acupuncture thing and how all of this stuff went down, and him and Kristen had taken time off from having sex to create a baby because of the miscarriage. But Luke ends up talking about how he's been thinking about proposing to Kristen, and he's been thinking about it for a while, and he's just trying to find the right time to do everything, but he really wants to do it to pretty much let Kristen know, I'm here for the long haul. Like, this is my token to you to let you know, like, you ain't got to worry about nothing. Danny feels happy about the fact that Luke feels comfortable to tell him that before it even happens, and he's happy for them. Danny, I can't believe Danny. We're going to get into him. But Danny ends up talking about this guy's group chat. Luke is not in the group chat. It's about 20 guys in this group chat. Luke is not in the group chat. Jason's not in the group chat because Jason has an Android. So he starts talking about the group chat and how they have a number one rule that everything that's in this boys' group chat stays in this group chat. Danny starts whispering. He starts whispering on camera, mic'd up. Like, you know they're going to catch it. You know they're going to catch it. You're mic'd up and you're on camera, which is funny to me. But he ends up saying that Jesse had made a statement in the group chat that he was questioning how Michelle is making rent and can afford her place when she hasn't made commission in 2 years. And then he makes this alleged assumption that he thinks that she's sleeping with a billionaire for $1,500 a night. And I'm like, how you gonna say that shit on TV talking about showing everything that stays in the group chat is supposed to stay in the group chat? If you gonna have this conversation with Luke, have that shit off camera. You're on camera, mic'd up, having this conversation on TV, knowing that it's gonna make air. Everybody's gonna see it. So what's in the group chat is no longer in the group chat. It's on Bravo. But and you telling Luke, who's not even in the group chat, not only you take out the fact that they're talking about it on TV, but Luke is not even in the group chat. So you already took it out of the group chat. Even if you didn't want it to be on TV, you still took it out of the group chat because Luke was not in it. But Jesse and Jason, they meet up at a coffee shop, and Jesse's pretty much letting Jason know that it's been an interesting 48 hours and whatnot. But Jason ends up starting to talk about not being comfortable around Zack with alcohol. Because you already know he's already not feeling Zack because of Zack and Janet's friction. But Jason ends up talking about how Danny has only gotten drunk twice a year. We all know that everybody's alluding to the fact that Danny has an issue with his liquor. When he starts taking his liquor, he starts getting out of control, out of his body. And Jason ends up talking about that and says that Danny doesn't control. Well, Jesse ends up saying this in his confessional, that Danny doesn't know how to control himself when he's drinking, because when he's not drinking, he's always with his kids. Like, he's with his kids. His life is essentially all the way together. So when he's away from his kids, he ends up drinking and then making all these poor decisions. Jason then starts talking about how Danny had gotten blackout drunk one day, approached Jasmine, was touching all on her thigh, inappropriate, and told her, go get daddy a drink. We all are grown here. Any man saying go get daddy a drink to somebody that's not his girl, not his wife, not his partner, whatever, that's inappropriate. That's very flirtatious. So we all know once you get that liquid courage, you start doing things that you probably wanted to do, but in your sober mind, you know you shouldn't do. But when you're drunk, you do things that you're not supposed to. And that's what he was doing. And essentially he had went up to Melissa, who is Jasmine's girlfriend, and went and grabbed her ass. That is inappropriate. That is inappropriate. It's crazy to me because both of them are lesbians. They don't want you to begin with. Not only that, you're married, and your wife is Nia, who is, in my opinion, the most beautiful girl on this show. She's seemingly the most decent person on this show. She just had 3 of your kids. Not only that, she's had struggles trying to have your kids. And this is what you do to her. Crazy. And not only that, it's just disrespectful to Jasmine. It's disrespectful to Melissa as well. And we see a scene of them addressing it with Danny. And he ends up apologizing. But Jason ends up saying, like, this was a step further than what he's done in the past. Which it sounds like Danny has a history of doing very inappropriate things. So that was, yeah. If you didn't watch my initial thoughts before the season, Danny was one of my favorites. This took him down. But we get to Brittany's house. And Kristen and Luke pull up. Here's where the telephone starts. Pull up, Crew's asleep. So Zack is right behind them as well. And Kristen ends up saying, like, Luke and her had decided to go to Janet's party. They made the decision they're going to go to Dave & Buster's. Because of the extension of the invite, Kristen's looking like this as Janet trying to at least extend an olive branch, trying to be nicer. She knows she's going to be nice because she's at Dave & Buster's. And we all know Janet loves Dave & Buster's. So Brittany, she ends up saying that she wants to have a good time and whatnot. And Zach's like, you going to have it because I'm not going to be there. Pretty much saying like him and Janet not going to get into it because he's not going to be there. But Zach ends up saying he doesn't, he said it doesn't piss him off that he wasn't invited. But her inviting Kristen and not him is just Janet scheming, which I don't disagree with him on that. I can see Janet doing that to reel Kristen in like she was doing everybody last season against Kristen. Like she wants to reel Kristen in to kind of pollute her brain against Zach, to kind of exclude Zach from the whole group like she was doing with everybody when it came to Kristen. So I can 100% see why he would think that. But Luke, messy. He starts talking about the conversation that him and Danny had about Jesse, trying to get Jesse and Michelle in the same place, and he brings up that conversation. He mentions how Danny had saw Jason say in the chat that Michelle was sleeping with a billionaire for $1,500 a night to pay rent. Everybody in there was looking like, what the fuck? And Luke ends up saying, like, in his confessional that I don't like telephone, but if they get the concise truth from me, they can't spin it. And it's like, why are you telling them this? Because it's like, what's the point in you even saying it? Like, first of all, you weren't even in the conversation to really know if it's true or not. Danny could have been lying to you. Danny could have been lying to you. You weren't even in the chat. Now you out here bringing this shit to somebody else who you're talking to women as well. And women are going to talk. They're going to gossip. And it's about one of their friends. So why would they not go and tell? Come on, Luke. But Kristen ends up saying, like, I don't like Michelle, but I don't like the fact that Jesse's doing this either. And it's like, I literally just became Team Jesse, but do I have to take my fan card away from you now? But like I said, it's not gonna look good for Jesse either in his custody battle too. Like, it's like you're doing a lot of things on TV to make this girl's life hell, which is crazy because I don't even like Michelle. But Michelle likes to play victim. We'll get to her in a minute. But Dave & Buster's. We get to Dave & Buster's. Everybody starts arriving. Michelle has never been to Dave & Buster's, which I'm not shocked. She looked like somebody that don't like to have fun. But they're in there getting drinks and food and whatnot. And Jesse ends up finally arriving. The energy's already weird. It's weird between him and Michelle. And it's kind of weird between him and Danny. Jesse low-key kind of snubbed Danny. And Danny's like, damn, I can't get a hug. And they ended up hugging it. And it was awkward. But Michelle, she ends up talking about how Jesse didn't allow her to wear makeup and whatnot when they were married because he didn't want her getting makeup on his clothes, which, I mean, I get that. But, like, you telling her not to wear makeup, that's crazy. But could she be exaggerating? I wouldn't put that past her either. Both of them are crazy. Both of them are crazy. But Janet's over there being a cornball, talking about all the things that she loves about Dave & Buster's. She's having a ball. I don't like Janet, but she would be me when it comes to the bullshit. When I'm trying to have a good time, y'all can have that shit. I'm about to have fun. And she was having fun. But Brittany, she ends up pulling Michelle and Nia to talk. And you know, Brittany got a telephone. It's going. She said, I want to clear the air because Zach, Kristen, and Luke came over and they had said, and she said they. It wasn't they. It was Luke had said, because Kristen and Zach didn't know either. But she says they had said that Danny had said something in the group chat said something that Jesse had said in the group chat about Michelle hooking up with a billionaire for $1,500 a night. Michelle immediately starts crying. Says he's making my life harder. Ever since I said I was filing for divorce, it's his mission to just make my life harder. I don't disagree with that. I'm pretty sure that is what he's doing. But it's like she's trying to play victim. But then again, Jesse is doing too much. It's like both of them. It's like, do I want to feel bad for one? Because they both are equally crazy. But she's trying to play this victim role. But she's saying like maybe he wants me and Aaron to break up, obviously, because he believes it. He's the reason why you've been cheating on him. Which, I mean, it's just like, why would he want you to be with him when he thinks that he's the reason why your marriage split? But Aaron's essentially not the reason why. Michelle is the reason why your marriage didn't last, because Michelle didn't want to be with you. She just happened to move on to Aaron. Like, regardless, no matter who it was, Michelle was checked out. She didn't want to be with you. And it's not Aaron's fault, essentially. But Brittany ends up asking if they should bring Danny in to hear what was really said so that we can make sure whenever we confront Jesse, we know for a fact it was said. Nia ends up getting him to come over, and Danny comes over looking confused. Brittany ends up telling him that Luke had said to her and Kristen and them about what was said in the group chat. Danny's face should look like he saw a damn ghost. Could not even say anything. So they sitting there asking him, and Brittany says, we need to make sure that Jesse had said this so when we confront him. And Danny is sitting there hesitating on what was said. And I'm like, did he even say it? I'm like, at this point, the way Danny was acting and how he was hesitating, I'm like, did Danny just open his mouth and just say this shit randomly, just being messy? It had me questioning if Jesse even said it. But Danny was struggling to speak, and Brittany ends up asking, did he actually say it? And Danny was like, essentially, yes, that's what was said, but it's all going to come back to me. And he's sitting there looking at Nia, and Nia's like, you got to own it now. You the one that said it. And I'm not even lying. Like, Nia was right. Like, you got to own it. You the one that said it. You brought it to Luke, who was not in the group chat. Luke ran them lips to everybody else, and now you know the shit's gonna keep spinning. Like, you set that shit up. Like, you literally started it, so you got to deal with it. But Danny ends up talking about Luke and his confessional. So I thought we were boys. Like, you can't tell Brittany who was gonna tell Michelle. You need to be mad at yourself. You took the shit out of, like, come on. You took the shit out of the group chat. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, why was Luke not in the group chat? But then again, Luke is new. Like, you can't put Luke in the group chat. But Michelle, she's breaking down even more now. And she's saying that she just wants to get divorced. She hates Jesse. We know you do. But Brittany and Nia, they end up asking why Jesse would even say that. And Kristen and Luke cracks me up because they start arriving now. I'm like, how convenient. But Janet, she over there talking about how happy she is that Kristen's there. And she still has this friendship ring with Kristen and whatnot. And maybe this could be a start of a new beginning. I'm like, please. But Michelle ends up telling them that Jesse is the one who's broke. She's telling everybody over there, he's the one that's broke, trying to act like I'm the one that needs the money. He the one that's broke. He don't even pay child support. And now he's out here making up this rumor about me. Luke ends up walking up. And it's like, what's going on over here? And Danny's sitting over there looking at him like, nigga, what the fuck did you do? And he's like, are you all right? And Danny's like, what the hell is going on? But Luke then says, I think I know what's going on. I'm pretty sure you do know what's going on. But Nia pretty much asked him for space. So Luke and Danny, they walk off. And he's over there telling Danny, like, I hope I didn't cause that. Yes, you know you did. Come on. But Danny ends up going over there to Jesse, who's over there playing the game with Jason. He goes over there and tells him that he had just found out some information. I'm like, okay, here you go. Jesse ends up saying, great. Okay, is it regarding me? And Danny's like, yes. He then tells him about everything that he done told Luke. Luke done told them. And he ends up saying that Luke had told him that information and Brittany has now told Michelle. Jason's like, so is it true? I'm like, that's a good question. Is it true? Because if it is true, what do you have to worry about? It's like, do you have something to worry about? But then again, you're being messy. So even if it is true, it's like, why are you out here running your mouth like that? Like, what are you gaining from that? But Jesse ends up saying, like, Jax had been worried. He said this in his confessional. Jax had been worried about there being a mole because over the last couple of months, shit that Jax has been doing has been getting back to the girls. And they've been trying to figure out who it is. And they have been suspicious of Danny. His name had came up. And because Danny had recently been added to the chat. And that's when all the mess started. Danny definitely was the mole. I'm 100% positive he was. But Danny's saying in his confessional that he wasn't the mole, even though in this moment he is the mole. But Jesse's like, you the one that told Luke, and Luke's not even in the chat. And Danny was pretty much stating that he's not the mole, but I mean, it's like, look at the evidence. But then we get over there to Janet, and Janet's over there asking why Michelle's crying to a bunch of them friends that's over there. Jesse ends up filling her in on the telephone, and Janet's saying in her confessional, I feel bad for Michelle because I've never seen anybody cry in Dave and Buster's. But Janet ain't even go over there and check up on her. I said, you fake as hell. Janet was over there playing them games. I don't like Janet, but she had me hollering. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was cracking up. But Janet, she's sitting there double fisting beers at this point. Janet having the time of her life. She said, y'all can have all that drama. Have that shit happen over there. I'm having a ball. That would be me. Truthfully, don't bring that drama to my party. I'm going to have fun. Once the party's done, then we can talk about it. But you're not about to fuck up my time. So she was over there having a ball. But Janet, like I said, she's double fisting. Michelle, she ends up going over there to fill Aaron in on what happens. And he's like, why are you worried about it? And she's like, it's just too much. And he's like, well, you're the strongest person that I know. And she's sitting there smiling. Whatever. But Jesse ends up telling Jasmine and Michelle certain things should remain private between the group chat and Danny's the Mo. And it's just like, that's y'all's fault. Y'all added him in there. But Michelle, she ends up going to Brittany and telling her essentially that the whole situation with Santa Barbara, I want to come, but Jesse needs to stay in the hotel, and I'm going to have everybody vote on if he should be in the hotel or not. I said, you are out of your fucking mind. You're talking about a trip that he's planning. He's planning. It's his trip. And Kristen gonna later say it. He's the one that rented the house out. So how you gonna vote him out of his house? I'm like, you are fucking crazy, Michelle. I'm like, what the hell? So she starts going around getting votes. And essentially the majority of the girls was voting to have him in a hotel at the party that the whole trip that he's planning himself. But Brittany obviously says yes. And Michelle gets over there to Jasmine and Nia, who are sitting there talking about Jesse thinking that Danny's the mole. And she comes over there, Michelle comes over there and asks them, and Jasmine and Mia start laughing because they're like, he's planning the trip. How you gonna vote him off his own trip? But Jasmine even said that in her confessional too, like, it's his trip. Don't come. Like, you don't want him there, don't come. It's his shit. I'm like, exactly. But Michelle does all that, and essentially Kristen comes over there, and Kristen's pretty much echoing the same sentiments. Like, he booked the house. Like, if the rumors are true, you can afford a nice hotel. Etc. I died laughing. I said, Kristen, you funny as hell. Because it's true. If the rumors are true and you get $1,500 a night, you can afford to, I'm pretty sure they're going to be out there, what, 3 days? You can go pay for a hotel. You and Aaron can go sit in that hotel. But Kristen ends up going over there to Jesse to tell him what Michelle's over there doing. And she's like, obviously I'm voting for Jesse because, I mean, it's your party. Or it's your trip. And Jasmine ends up saying, like, I'm going to be honest with you. Me and Jesse are good. Like, I don't want him out of the house. Michelle starts sitting there crying, playing victim. I said, like, come on. And she ends up saying, I feel like they're not seeing my side. Like, I'm going through some shit that's worse than Brittany. Are you? And I can't stand people like Michelle. Michelle act like just because she going through some shit, somebody else can't be going through some shit. It's like she wants to, who has it worse at this point? Me, if I'm going through some shit and somebody else wants to make their shit worse than mine, you have it. You can have it. If you want to feel like you going through it the worst, then go through it. But that whole like sympathy shit, trying to play victim all the time, Michelle, that's why Michelle can go. Michelle can go. But Dave and Buster's, they end up bringing out this cake for Janet, and she over there having a ball. Everybody's going over there. Michelle walks off crying by herself. Jesse low-key eating it up, but Brittany goes over there to comfort her. But this episode was a mess. A mess. Y'all let me know whose side y'all was on. I'm not really on nobody's side when it comes to this Jesse and Michelle shit right now, because I see both of them being weird. Both of them are weird. But what a mess. Danny, a mess, which is... it's kind of setting up Danny's downfall, as we know later on in the season. But yeah, another good episode. If you got this far and haven't already, thumbs up the video, subscribe if you're new, drop a comment down below, share the video. Go put it somewhere. Go put it in Bravo Sphere so we can get more people over. But I'll see y'all next Tuesday for episode 4. Let's do it.